Hey folks, welcome back to the Leeds Gamer. It's match preview time. So before we get into it, do please remember to do all the good stuff. So hitting the subscribe button, hitting the notification bell so you don't miss any future content, and also please liking and hyping the video. All of this really does help, and I really do appreciate it. So let's get straight into it. It's a midweek Premier League game, which is a bit rare, but it's on the basis that we've got an FA Cup game at the weekend, so they've got to cram this in somewhere, and it's an away trip to Bournemouth. In the reverse fixture, Bournemouth were extremely lucky and extremely jammy, and extremely fortunate on their part to come away with a draw, as they scored after the 90th minute. Leeds were winning 2-1 at the time, and Bournemouth come away with a 2-2 draw. So we owe them one. I want victory in this one. I know that Bournemouth are on a very good unbeaten run right now, but we haven't lost many either, and we're not conceding many either. And we have started to score some goals again. So I'm feeling more on the optimistic side with this one. I think we can give this lot a game. I think they're quite good in certain areas. I think there's areas that they're maybe not quite so good at. So I think we can give them a good game here. So let's have a look at the lineups. Starting with Bournemouth, Petrovic's played every game. He was a goalkeeper that Leeds were linked with in the summer, but he went to Bournemouth instead. I think they'll go with the young Spanish player Jimenez at right back. They'll go with Frenchman Truffet at left back. He's been one of their best players this season. We're going to have to be mindful of him. Centre back pairing of James Hill and Marco Senesi. There is the possibility that Diakite could play at centre back as well, but I think out of the three of them, I think it could be Hill and Senesi. In terms of a midfield, former Leeds United player Tyler Adams, former Bristol City midfielder Alex Scott, and Leeds-born midfielder Marcus Tavernier. And then with a front three, which could be quite dangerous if we're not careful, and that is of David Brooks, Junior Kroupi, who got, I think it was Kroupi who got the late equaliser against us, and then Brazilian Evanilson up front. They do have a couple of other options. Other former Leeds United players in Lewis Cook, he's injured so he won't play, and former loaned in fullback Adam Smith has been more of a backup for them this season. So chances are he won't play. He's one of the oldest members of the squad now, 34 years old. Other possibilities that they might consider, just having a look at who's played a handful of minutes. They won't have son of the very famous Dutch striker Patrick Kluivert available. Justin Kluivert is not available, he is injured. So other players that could possibly come into the lineup, we've already mentioned Diakite. Adli, the Moroccan, he's played over 1,000 minutes this season, with 3 goals and 1 assist, so there's a possibility of him, but he has made more sub-apps than he's made starts. Ryan Christie, he's been at the club a long time now, a 31-year-old Scottish player, but again he's made 16 sub-apps along with 7 starts. And then the rest of them are, well, a lot of them are then youngsters. Enes Ünal, the Turkish forward, he's 28-year-old, but he hasn't even made a start this season. He's only made 175 minutes with 19 sub-apps and scoring 1 goal. And then the rest of them are relatively young players. Julio Sola's out injured anyway. The young left back, so he ain't going to play. They've got Ben Doak, who had a loan spell at Middlesbrough, I think it was. Quite a pacey winger, but he's only played 68 minutes this season, so he's not likely to get a look in. Obviously, some of these younger players might make the Bournemouth bench, but certainly are not likely to be considered for the first 11. So that's what we're up against, folks. Players to look out for. I mean, obviously they lost Semenyo, who had played 20 games, 1,800 minutes. He got 10 goals and 3 assists. So it's a good job that we're not up against him. He went to Man City, obviously. Now, in terms of their threats, their top scorer currently is actually Kroupi with 10 goals. He's made 16 starts and 12 sub-apps and got 1,313 minutes of football so far. Tavernier and Evan Nilsson are both on 6 goals each. Tavernier with 4 assists and Evan Nilsson with 1 assist as well. Alex Scott obviously scored a bit of a belter in their last league match. He's got 3 goals and 1 assist. As I said, Truffett's been one of their most consistent players. He's got 1 goal and 3 assists from fullback. But seems to be one of their most consistent players. He's got the most minutes out of any outfielder. Petrovic's played all 33 games, but as has Truffett. The only difference in minutes there is that he's obviously been subbed off a couple of times. But that's pretty much how it looks for Bournemouth. This is not going to be an easy match by any stretch of the imagination. It's a long journey down south for Leeds United. And it's against a team that are in form. They're not losing games. This game screams draw. If truth be told, it really screams draw. With how both Leeds United and Bournemouth have been making themselves very difficult to beat in recent times, certainly in most cases, that could be the likely outcome. So going on to the Leeds lineup. So in terms of players missing out, Meslier and Keynes as always. Sam Byram's been the least. He's made the least appearances out of all the outfielders, so he's likely to miss out. Anton Stack is the only official injured player now. So it's good that we're getting players back. And then obviously Facundo Benanotti, who is on loan, is likely to miss out as well. So from a bench point of view, I mean, well, no, I'll actually go on to the first 11 because I don't think that Daniel Farke will make any changes. However, there is 1 or 2 changes he could consider if he wanted to. One of them being Joe Rodon coming in for James Justin. Joe made a cameo appearance in the last match and has made a miraculous recovery. It's just a case of whether Daniel Farke decides that Joe Rodon has had enough training sessions to be fully fit. Or if he needs to be on the bench. I think if there was any possibility of Joe Rodon starting, I think that Farke probably does go with Joe Rodon. Again, nothing that James Justin has done wrong. James Justin was excellent. Last time out, got a fantastic goal and, helped to keep out a relatively weak Wolverhampton Wanderers side in fairness, but he still kept them out, as did the whole team. So there is that defensive change. I would not think that there would be any other consideration of change, possibly Lucas Mecha coming in to be a 2-man front pairing with DCL, but again we know that Daniel Farke is not keen on it, and with the form that Bournemouth are in, I don't think that he's going to take any risks. So this would mean a bench of Lucas Perry, the backup goalkeeper, and then defensively Sebastian Bornau, with possibly either Joe Rodon or James Justin, depending on how Daniel Farke wants to go about it. Plenty of midfield depth as always, with Ilya Gruev and Sean Longstaff available. Quite a bit on the wings as well. Wilfred Gnonto, again, every time he comes on as a sub, he seems to be doing quite well, doesn't he? So, he's certainly been a good impact sub or impact player in recent matches. Dan James is back in team training again, but according to Daniel Farke, he's going to need an absolute shed load of team training sessions to get back up to full speed. But I just get the feeling that he might just put Dan on the bench, and he might just bring Dan on for maybe even just injury time at the end of the match, just to give him a cameo run out, see how his body holds up against, having him run out for a couple of minutes. And then Joel Perreault and Lucas Mecha, so plenty of firepower available if Daniel Farke wants to use it. So the first 11 would be the same as it has been for the last match or two now. So Carl Darlow in goal, wing backs of Jayden Bogle and Gabby Gudmundsson, back three of James Justin, Jakob Biol and Pascal Strout, midfield Ethan Ampadu and Outanaka, with Brendan Aronson and Noah Okafor supporting Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front. We know that Daniel Farke doesn't make a lot of changes unless he needs to, but we also know that Daniel Farke has his favourites. So again, I only really see Joe Rodon coming back into the 11, and again probably at the expense of James Justin. I don't see that many other changes being done, if truth be told. But if I just go on who scored for Leeds United, just to have a look at their stats currently, because I have been tracking the players that have gotten over 2,000 minutes and also the players that have got over 1,000 minutes, because I do believe at the end of the season any player that has made less than 1,000 minutes could be under consideration for being sold. So from a Leeds perspective, we've got Ampadu, Strauch, Bogle, Gudmundsson, Rodon, DCL, Aronson, Stack, all above 2,000 minutes. That's 8 players over 2,000 minutes. Now what that suggests to me is that Daniel Farke genuinely does have his favourites, and likes to have a settled lineup. The next players that have gotten over 1,000 minutes, you're looking at the likes of Carl Darlow, who has now surpassed Lucas Perry in terms of Premier League starts. Jakob Biol, James Justin, Noah Okafor, Lucas Perry's still up there, Ilya Gruev. They've all made over 1,000 minutes. And then the players that are kind of creeping up on that mark, you've got Sean Longstaff, Outanaka and Lucas Mecha, and then it's the rest of them that are really struggling for game time at the moment. So Mecha's on 877 minutes, with Longstaff and Tanaka both over 900. But Wilfred Gnonto's only on 421 minutes, Dan James 410 minutes. It's amazing that Gnonto's only just surpassed Dan James in the last match in terms of getting over him on minutes. Seb Bornau, 308 minutes. Joel Perreault, 217 minutes. And then forget it with Facundo Bonanotti and Sam Byram. 24 minutes for Facundo and just 7 minutes of Premier League time for Sam Byram this season with that one sub app. Jack Harrison, before he went out on loan, got 264 minutes with 1 start and 10 sub-ups. So that's where the Leeds squad is at the moment, folks. There's obviously a very strong possibility that Sean Longstaff and Outanaka could end up with over 1,000 minutes this season. Outanaka in particular, because he's starting games over the injured Anton Stark. So he's on 929 minutes of football this season with 9 starts and 14 sub-ups. So if we assume that Outanaka will start against Bournemouth, he's got 2 goals to his name so far. There is every chance that Outanaka, if he can play 71 minutes against Bournemouth, then he gets into the 1,000 and probably stays at the club for at least another season, I would think. Sean Longstaff, again, if he, chances are he'll come off the bench at some point. I think for Sean it's a case of whether he can get at least 10 minutes for each of the next 5 games, for him to get over the 1,000-minute mark, which might just give him a chance of staying at the club next season. Bit of a harder task for Lucas Mecha. He's on 877 minutes at the moment, but he's got 6 goals and 1 assist in just 9 starts. He's had 17 sub appearances this season. But obviously so many of those have been very small, hence why he's only on 877 minutes. I'd be quite happy for Lucas Mecha to stay at the club. I think he's shown glimpses of what he's capable of. But he needs more game time. You would think that he'd be able to somehow nick 123 minutes out of the next 5 games. I mean, what's 123 divided by 5? About 25, isn't it? Roughly. So there's a chance, but it's looking a little bit dodgy for him. There's absolutely no chance that Wilfred Gnonto, even if Wilfred Gnonto started and played the entirety of the 90 minutes for the next 5 games, he doesn't get over 1,000 minutes. He's on 421, and then Dan James has been injured so much this season. What are you going to do? But again, it's partially because Leeds don't really play with wingers. It's amazing that Noah Okafor's had as much time as he's had, considering that we don't play with wingers. So, that's where we're at with it, folks. In terms of the biggest threats for Leeds, DCL's obviously on 11 goals with 1 assist. And then after that, you've got Brendan Aronson on 4 goals, 5 assists. Anton Stack, who's injured and unavailable, he's up to 4 goals and 3 assists. Noah Okafor's on 7 goals and 1 assist now. It's looking quite good for him. Groev's got 3 assists, surprisingly. And then, as I mentioned, you've got Lucas Mecha with 6 goals and 1 assist. So those are the main threats for Leeds United. We're going to have to be at it against Bournemouth. They're having a good season, so we need to be at it. So I'm hopeful of getting a draw, because if we get a draw, then we end up being on the 40-point mark, and I think at that point we're safe. I mean, obviously, let's get as many points as we can. If we get a point against Bournemouth, if we could then get another 10 points out of the next, out of the remaining 4 games, finish on 50 points, that'd be great. That'd be a very solid season if we were to finish on 50 points. It's a big ask, but with the teams that we've got to play against in the remainder of the season, I think it might be doable. It's going to be hard, it's going to be tough, but I think we can do it. So I'm going to leave it there, folks. Big thank you for watching. As I say, do please do all the good stuff that I mentioned earlier. Enjoy the game. Let's hope for as many points as we can. If we can't win the thing, make sure we don't lose it. And in the meantime, have a good one. See you next time. Bye for now.